The galaxy. When we launched the comic book, we worked with the Mumbai police to distribute it to students. In this coming year, we'd like to work not only with the schools here in Mumbai, but also with the HRD ministry to try and get this in the primary school curriculum for students throughout India. Our members are the 6 major Hollywood studios. They've all engaged in local production. So because there's such great investment, the market needs to be protected as well as promoted in order to expand the film industry. You can't be successful in expanding a market if there's not a proper mindset within the industry, within the public, and within the government officials. And that includes advocacy on issues such as market access barriers or taxation or the forthcoming copyright amendments. We work very closely with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting on anti-piracy legislation. About 3 years ago, the RAND Corporation in the United States, the RAND Corporation is the national security think tank for the United States government, issued a global report on film piracy and how it funds organized crime and terrorism. We've given this to the state governments, and this has really furthered the efforts of trying to get, as I mentioned earlier, the film piracy offenses, the large-scale film piracy offenses under the organized crime statutes. For instance, here in Maharashtra, last year that happened.
But, I mean, what's the proof that it's funding terrorism?
That you'll have to judge for yourself when you read the RAND report and you see the citations and all of the evidence that the RAND Corporation has put together. That's not for me to claim or disclaim validity.
The film industry in India has industry status, but it does not have any industry responsibilities. I mean, its employment practices are kind of shocking, right? And it's a kind of mafia of its own kind. So actually you are lobbying for kindness to a different type of organized mafia, don't you think?
Look, some of the points that you're making, again, we don't face those issues in Hollywood.
Hindi films have rampantly copied the plots of Hollywood films, and this you're aware of. I mean, you know it. But you are willing to partner with an industry that has basically violated your IPRs.
Well, okay, has idea theft occurred in the past here in the Hindi industry? Yes, idea theft has occurred in the past. Has it occurred in violation of the rights of Hollywood studios? Yes, it has. But for those instances, the studios, my member companies, have made an individual call whether or not to pursue the infringers in court or to not pursue them in court. That's a decision that each studio has to make on their own. But just because this happened in the past doesn't make the situation necessarily ironic or hypocritical either, which I think you're also inferring. Because the corporates, we're moving in India, this industry is moving towards vertical integration.
Maybe that logic can then be made to apply also to people who are doing piracy. I mean, if they become film producers, would he be included in these alliances or not be? How would it work?
Well, I mean, look, you're correct in the sense that the industry continues to evolve.
There's an NGO for cats, there's an NGO for trees, for everything, but there's no NGO for piracy. It's not something which has been said by us, but has been even stated in the RAND report very clearly that the money goes to Dawood Ibrahim. From there, it's going to Al Qaeda. There are two aspects of my NGO. One is to educate the government. The other one is to educate to the public in large. We're going to have short ads, which is going on television, on the theaters and MTV, Channel B, news channels everywhere. Small, cute ads.
Where is the money for the work going to come from?
It's an NGO. So obviously, if you're going to go to institutions, most of the big organizations have the CRC, what is it called? CSR. The CSR funding, and we could probably go and approach them, and we definitely intend doing that. We are doing it, telling them.
But CSR, like corporate social responsibility, is supposed to be used for things which are for the good of society.
Well, this is not good of society, because it's not there before you. How can you call it a bad of society? Do you know what the networking is? The refugees who come into India, Mumbai, they love Mumbai because it's a film city. They're like Shah Rukh Khan, Salman Khan, blah, blah, blah. They come into the city, their job, they've been given jobs because they have to survive. The networking of these underworld is so beautiful, better than a T-Series or an HMV, let me tell you. What they do is, they hire these guys on 200 rupees a day. It does not matter if they sell 1 CD or 10 CDs. Their job is static locations, outside every railway station, outside all the theaters.
Eventually, the only people really being harmed by piracy are private corporates. And I think they're just linking it to this idea of terrorism to make the government fight their cause. I mean,
the corporates wanted an open market economy, right? They wanted fewer government protections. So why should the government protect them now?
Why don't you have drugs openly available? Why don't you have guns available? Either way, you have a large population in a country. It doesn't make a difference. If we shoot each other, you go to a supermarket and say, can I have that gun, please? Wow, I'll buy it.
where there's love, there's war. And the rules of war are usually stacked in favor of those who don't believe in love. So while the battle rages on, what weapons do they fight with, the fugitive lovers?
These are the ones who are actually enabling the access.
No, I agree. So suppose I am an organization,
Yeah.
and I convert it into an accessible format.
Yeah.
I'm Saksham in Delhi. There is Ability Foundation in Delhi, in Chennai, who wants the book which is converted by Saksham. I'm working with Lawrence on the World Blind Union Treaty. So we're just trying to amend Indian copyright law to be in consonance with the Constitution as well as the Convention on Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which India has ratified, which actually says that intellectual property rights should not be an unreasonable barrier to access to cultural material. As they have, that's the problem, right? In the sense that, do you look at it as a, because when they say settlement in article some whatever, we studied in law school together. So I used to work for companies that either owned intellectual property or wanted to license intellectual property. Movie music licensing is my area of specialty. In my earlier avatar, I would say that I would do anything necessary to protect my client's interest, even if it meant the artist had to suffer a little bit.
I'm a lawyer and I'm a researcher, but I've generally been interested in looking at the relationship between law and culture. So a lot of my work has been on relationship between law and cinema, law and literature. In other words, looking at law as a cultural process and not merely as a legal process. So that's kind of what I do. So part of a group called the Alternative Law Forum. We're a human rights lawyering group.
I went to the corporate kind of space, and Lawrence was doing all weird things. Till I was actually invited by the World Blind Union to help draft the treaty for the blind. So I was in DC, sitting around a table of 15 people from around the world. And 3 of them were visually impaired. So that's my first kind of interaction with people with visual impairment. I was totally amazed by, they were like completely awe-inspiring for me. How they use technology and the kind of difficulties they face. And so that is a life-changing experience for me. It's estimated that in India only 0.5% of all books are available in formats that people with disability can read, which means that people are excluded from society simply because of copyright law, which doesn't allow the conversion and distribution of material into accessible formats. But if you have to study, you have to convert. So there is this whole ecosystem which is underground. A parent taking a book, say taking Enid Blyton and then converting it for their kids. And so that's the extent of which, if that's piracy, then that's piracy. Oh, a light is back. Current is back.
In the pirate market in Bangalore, there was one store. And of course, everyone goes there looking for pornography. And so people had gone looking for porn. And the guy realized that over a period of time that there were certain kinds of porn films which were kind of particularly, exceptional in terms of what they produced as an affective kind of response from buyers. And they tended to be films like In the Realm of the Senses or Last Tango in Paris. And there were, so he started kind of figuring out that there's something called a story porn film for which there's a niche audience. The story porn film turns out, of course, to be the history of world cinema. He started then kind of figuring out that, there is this kind of market. And over a period of time, he managed to get the entire Sight and Sound, then he got the entire Criterion collection, things which are just not available, either because they're no longer fashionable or because the market doesn't exist because it's too niche an audience. World cinema in India is a classic example of a market that was actually created by a combination of piracy and cinephilia to now actually have a formal market. Because it's always a scenario that the larger the player, the more unwilling they are to invest in a niche market.
In India, there are 70 million people who require alternate formats, which is actually a pretty large target market. But that target market is not organized enough for publishers to see value in converting and selling books. So basically, we have an online platform called inclusiveplanet.com, which is currently being used by visually impaired people in 85 different countries. So they've started to interact with people from other countries to know what it's like, and they share ideas and solutions. We are waiting for the critical mass before we actually start entering into contracts with them to actually try to sell books. But obviously, I believe that it has to be at a equal or lower price. It cannot be higher price because that's not really fair.
Brodel has a long history of capitalism, and he says the problem with capitalism is not that it is the market. The problem is it's anti-market. So it's not about some puritan kind of idea that the market is bad. The question is what kind of market. I think technology is changing that a bit. There are ways in which the relationship between the producer and the consumer is actually kind of being redefined. So I think that this challenge of thinking through what the logic of the market is actually an open-ended question.
What would the rules look like if lovers imagined them? If it was a love story, not a story about war.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was nice shopping here in Lingarajpuram.
Yeah.
Have a good day, Rahan.
Good day, Allah, sir. Good night. 9 ಗಂಟೆ ಆಯ್ತು.
Some stories end with a moral. Dreams must be exchanged for plans because you cannot live on love and fresh air. Other stories end with the practical question: without love and fresh air, how would we live? How would anything begin? भैया जी, क्या देख रहे हो?
सिटी देख रहे हैं। सिटी का व्यू मॉर्निंग में और इवनिंग में अच्छा लगता है, सुंदर लगता है।
Without those marketplaces of love and air, where would we chance upon and buy and tell the countless stories of our lives?
कौन जाने मन्ने तो पूरा संसार जाने ओए सौदा बनेता बन बाकू एरे उन पादरे वलचा मोरा तूने कौन जाने
अभी हमारे क्या फसल कटिंग चल रही है, तो इनकी मैसेज वगैरह है, वो इनको कॉल करती है, कहाँ अभी तक आए नहीं, अभी आ ही रहे हैं, ऐसे हैं वो, मतलब सब एक बार ये एक इंटरेस्ट है अंदर से कि वो कुछ बहाने बना के आए यहाँ पे।
क्योंकि आपने एक दिन का बोल के गए, अभी 4 दिन हुए, फसल खराब हो रही है, बोल रहे भगवान ने जो दिया वो तो संभल नहीं रहा है, परंपरा लेके बैठे हैं।
उत्पत्ति हुई ना, जब ये हमारा काम है गाने बजाना। ये जो लोग गाना बजाना करते हैं नहीं, वो तो हमसे चुरा कर काम किए है, खानदान मिरासी हैं हम।
चोरी किसने की?
चोरी दुनिया ने की है। हाँ, पूरी दुनिया ने चोरी की है हमारी कला की। क्यों हमारी कला लोगों ने सुनाई, सब लोगों ने सीख लिया, उन्होंने तो चोरी के लिए कैसेट भर के और ले गए। हमारी तो कोई जरूरत नहीं, हम तो वहाँ गाते हैं, बम्बई, कलकत्ता, आसाम, बंगाल, बिहार, कटिहार, डमरूगढ़, सिलीगुड़ी, वहाँ गाते हैं, और हम यहाँ बैठे हैं। यहाँ हमारी चोरी है नहीं है ये।
भारत में तो क्योंकि हमारा तो मामला सारा जातियों पर निर्भर है, क्या कोई एक व्यक्ति कह सकता है कि ये मेरी कला है? लोक कलाओं के बारे में कोई नहीं कह सकता, ये पूरी उस समाज की कला है, उस समाज की धरोहर है। फिर आप एक अनुबंध करते हैं कंपनी से, फिर कंपनी ये भी कहती है कि ये आप कैसे साबित कर सकते हैं ये कला आपकी है। तो जब पूरा समाज की धरोहर है तो कौन उसको राइट्स कौन कह सकता है? तो उसके राइट्स को क्लेम कोई नहीं कर सकता, इसलिए सभी उसका उपयोग कर सकते हैं। प्रॉब्लम जब आती है कि उनकी कला को कोई काम में लेने के बाद में वो कहते हैं कि ये हमारी है, क्योंकि उनका कॉपीराइट, समस्या तब आती है। तो ये नए बाजार की समस्या है। कला तो एक ऐसी चीज़ है जो किसी भी बंधन में नहीं बन सकती है। उसका काम ही है कि आप जिस बंधन में है जिंदगी के, उससे मुक्त करना।
This work actually started through one of our founder trustees, John's interest in music. He's always been passionate about music, and he was aware that traditional patronage of these arts was dwindling. Over a period of time, we've evolved local Virasat Samitis. They're the ones who actually locally own the festival with support from the Jaipur Virasat Foundation. From an artist's point of view, a musician wants to play. A musician wants to listen, wants to play with other musicians. People assume that the folk artist doesn't want to do it. Folk artist plays in his group and does all that. But as performers and as musicians, they have the same, pretty much every artist has a similar kind of wanting to be in front of an audience, show what they can do, and show others what they can do. And we are not working through genre, where we are privileging a genre called folk over every other genre. That's not what we are doing. We want to facilitate collaborations as conversations between artists. The product at the end of the day is their creation. It is not our creation. So we do not assume that we should be the ones determining what the result should be.
So you've had your run-in with the system, haven't you? So what happened there?
A jingle that I had composed. It's licensed for a year to Sony Ericsson. Specifically stated that I am the rights owner. And when we found it used in a feature film, we brought up the issue with the people who had used the jingle and converted it into a song. We didn't get any replies. Nobody at any point acknowledged the infringement. And that was the problem. It was an issue of decency. This could have been settled very amicably. So we show up in court and they file an affidavit saying that basically this tune is theirs and that I'm a less reputed composer than the accused composer, and that basically I'm just making this up. The idea of the law is to protect the weak, and trust me, no matter what anybody says, the artists, no matter how rich they are the weaker side of the negotiation always. Folk music is the pop music of the land. Where are the modern Thumris? Where are the modern Marns? Where are they in today's context? There's a lot to be said. It's not being said because the artists are just not given their due. There's no point in creating because you can't protect it, and when you can't protect it, the artist loses all incentive to create. How are we going to find that equation between letting things be non-exclusive, yet monetizing them? We need to start recording great albums with these great musicians and start putting them out on a regular basis with the artists as stakeholder on the album, where we strike non-exclusive deals with people, say for 5 years with a particular record company, and after 5 years it reverts to us as a joint rights holders, and then we can license it to somebody else if the dynamic of the industry completely changes.
अरे सुने नहीं जो शब्द रे अब वो ये शब्द सुनाई देते हैं, और जिनका नहीं कसूर उन्हें क्यों लोग बुराई देते हैं, जिनका नहीं कसूर उन्हें क्यों लोग बुराई देते हैं। सुने नहीं जो सुने नहीं जो धीरे बजे सुने नहीं जो शब्द रे अब वो शब्द सुनाई देते हैं, तेरा जिनका नहीं कसूर उन्हें क्यों लोग बुराई देते हैं, ये जिनका नहीं कसूर उन्हें क्यों लोग बुराई देते हैं। तेरा पंचवटी पे लक्ष्मण जी ने, तेरा पंचवटी पे तेरा लक्ष्मण जी ने सुरपनखा की नाक को काटा क्यों? रामचंद्र जी तो समझदार थे, भाई को ना डांटा क्यों? रामचंद्र खुद समझदार थे, भाई को ना डांटा क्यों? तेरा जिसकी बहन की नाक कटे, तेरा जिसकी बहन की नाक कटे, वो कर ले सहन बुराई क्यों? तेरा सब कहते हैं रावण ने रे भाई सीता सती चुराई क्यों? ये सब कहते हैं रावण ने रे भाई सीता सती चुराई क्यों? चोरी करने वालों को क्यों, तेरा चोरी करने वालों को क्यों ये लोग भलाई देते हैं, और जिनका नहीं कसूर उन्हें क्यों लोग बुराई देते हैं, ये जिनका नहीं कसूर उन्हें क्यों लोग बुराई देते हैं। सुने नहीं जो
sign up with a music company and go that route?
And then we get all these fancy,
contracts
huge contracts, and we're like, come on, let's discuss this or whatever. But it's like something about the universe.
No. I love the way record contracts start. The first sentence says territory, the world, and the solar system.
Yeah.
No matter where you are in this place, your rear end is ours.
Straight away, we're like, okay, boss, this is like too much to handle.
It says the world and the solar system. I mean, what is that? Why do you have to start a contract by saying, the whole, I have it, it's all mine.
First album, we made cassettes, we made CDs. None of our CDs, even till today, has a price tag on it. So we just went out, how much ever money a guy's got to give me, give it to me, take the CD. Most of the guys come to gigs and say, hey, listen, I don't have any money, I got just $50. Okay. But we had our copyright statement on the CDs were like, on the cassettes and the CDs were like, please make as many copies as you can and distribute it to all your friends. This was before downloads and all of that came in, We were like, how do we distribute and stuff like that? We said, just let's put it up on the net. Thanks to our friends in Bangalore who are in the digital industry, they told us about Creative Commons, what is BitTorrent. We were one of the first bands to have our music up online for free.
Some companies going to put a whole lot of money into building you up and promoting you. Then what's wrong with the fact that they want to own everything?
When it becomes a lawyer and accountant game, after the money becomes so big that people start getting greedy or whatever else,